Have you ever wondered why we make the choices we do in everyday life? Whether deciding how to respond to a friend, navigating a tough situation at work, or even just figuring out how to split a bill at dinner, life is full of decisions. And while it might seem like we're just reacting at the moment, there's a surprising layer of strategy behind our choices. That's where evolutionary game theory comes in, a fascinating framework that shows how our decisions, and even those of animals, are shaped by competition, cooperation, and survival. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're participating in these evolutionary games every single day. And these aren't just theoretical concepts, they're strategies that have been hardwired into living beings over millions of years of evolution. But let's take a step back. What exactly is game theory? Traditionally, game theory is the study of mathematical models of strategic interaction between rational decision makers. It's been used in everything from economics to political science to psychology. But evolutionary game theory takes this a step further. It's not just about what people or animals think is the best strategy. It's about how their behavior evolves over time and in response to competition. Imagine two wolves in the wild. They both want food, but the best way for them to hunt might not involve direct competition. Instead, they might find that working together allows them to get a larger share of the prey, even though they have to split it afterward. The decision to cooperate or compete isn't random, and it's shaped by what will maximize their chances of survival. This simple scenario is a great example of an evolutionary game in action. Now, let's talk about the games involved here. In game theory, a game is any situation where multiple players make choices, and the outcome for each player depends on the choices made by others. But in evolutionary game theory, these players don't necessarily know they're playing. Wolves aren't sitting around calculating probabilities and risks. They're just doing what evolution has taught them works best for survival. So, what makes evolutionary game theory different from the traditional one? The difference lies in the focus on long-term strategies rather than immediate wins. Traditional game theory assumes players make decisions based on clear rules and immediate payoffs. But evolution doesn't consider individual victories. It's about which strategies survive and replicate over generations. Let's dive into an example you might have heard of, the famous prisoner's dilemma. Imagine two criminals are caught and isolated by the police. They're each given a choice: betray the other and get a lighter sentence, or stay silent and risk a longer punishment if the other betrays them. The dilemma. Neither knows what the other will do. From a traditional game theory perspective, the safest option is to betray the other since it minimizes the risk of being betrayed first. But in evolutionary game theory, we think beyond just one interaction. What if these two criminals, instead of being strangers, had to interact over and over again? The best strategy might not be betrayal but cooperation, especially if they expect to deal with each other again in the future. Over time, cooperation will outlast short-term strategies of betrayal because it leads to better outcomes in the long run. This type of cooperative behavior can be seen all over nature. Take vampire bats, for example. They often share blood with one another after a hunt. It's simple, because the next time they might need food, someone else in the colony will share with them. Over time, this cooperative strategy ensures survival for more individuals, even if it means sacrificing a little in the short term. But what happens when cooperation doesn't pay off? That's where another key concept in evolutionary game theory comes in: the hawk-dove game. Imagine two animals, a hawk and a dove, fighting over a piece of food. The hawk is aggressive and will always fight to win. The dove, on the other hand, avoids conflict and will back down if confronted. If both compete for a resource, the hawk wins the prize, but at a cost, injury from the fight. The dove, meanwhile, avoids injury but loses the prize. If the population were all hawks, fights would be constant, leading to more injuries and fewer overall resources. On the other hand, if everyone were doves, no one would fight, but resources would be overshared and scarce. Evolutionary game theory suggests that the best balance is somewhere in between, a mix of aggressive and peaceful strategies where some individuals are hawks and others are doves, depending on the situation. This balance between conflict and cooperation is known as an evolutionarily stable strategy, or S. S is an important concept because it shows us there is no one-size-fits-all solution to survival. Sometimes aggression pays off, and sometimes it's better to cooperate. The key is finding the right balance for the environment you're in, and this applies to human societies just as much as animal ones. In fact, evolutionary game theory can explain much of human behavior, from politics to business to personal relationships. Take negotiations in business, for example. If both sides are too aggressive, the deal might fall through. But if one side is always too cooperative, they might get taken advantage of. The best negotiators know when to push and when to pull back, using strategies that balance competition with cooperation. But here's where things get really interesting. Evolutionary game theory doesn't just explain why we make certain choices. It also shows us how these strategies evolve. In biology, genes that promote certain behaviors, like cooperation or aggression, are passed down through generations. Ideas and strategies that work well in society are selected over time. Think about it, certain social norms, customs, or business practices evolve because they work better than others. So, how can understanding evolutionary game theory help you in your own life? One key lesson is to recognize that many situations you face, whether at work, in relationships, or your personal development, are part of larger, ongoing games. Instead of focusing on short-term wins, think about long-term strategies. Are you acting in a way that will benefit you in the long run, or are you only concerned with the immediate payoff? Another takeaway is the importance of flexibility. Like the hawks and doves, sometimes you need to adapt your strategy depending on the situation. Sometimes aggressiveness is better. Other times, cooperation might lead to a better outcome. Knowing this balance can help you navigate complex social interactions with more insight. Evolutionary game theory teaches us that life is not just about winning at the moment, it's about developing strategies that help us thrive over time. In nature or society, those who adapt and find the right balance between competition and cooperation win in the long run. If you found this video informative and would like to delve deeper into the fascinating topic of how our behaviors evolve over time, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could show your support by liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Your support encourages us to create more content and helps our community grow. Thank you for being a part of our journey.